So, whenever we talk about the dangers of AGI, our minds usually jump to, killer robots or maybe losing all our jobs, right? But what if the real threat, the biggest danger, isn't out there at all? What if it's actually happening inside our own heads? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down a pretty radical vision for humanity's future, and it all comes from the source text, New Note.
And right off the bat, the source material just drops this bombshell. The biggest crisis humanity faces is not AI, but the crisis of the soul. I mean, think about that. The argument here is that the real end of the world isn't going to come from some super smart computer. It's going to come from us, from our own internal flaws. It's a really bold claim, and it totally flips the usual AI conversation on its head.
Okay, so to really get our heads around the solution that's being proposed here, we first have to understand the problem as the source sees it. And that problem is, well, it's the inevitable supremacy of AI.
Just look at this comparison. The gap in intellect it's talking about, it's not just big, it's absolutely staggering. The source is basically saying this isn't a competition we can ever hope to win. It literally uses the term crushing superiority. It's like we're infants trying to have a debate with a god. And the conclusion from that? Our time as the planetary managers, as the ones in charge? Yeah, that's over.
So what's the real-world fallout from that kind of intellectual gap? Well, it's the end of work as we know it. And the source is really clear here. This isn't just about factory jobs or truck drivers. We're talking about doctors, lawyers, teachers, even the folks in admin. Pretty much any job that involves physical or mental labor is on the chopping block. AGI and robotics will just do it better.
So, the natural reaction might be, okay, let's fight it, let's try to control it. But the text is absolutely firm on this point. Don't even try. It says fighting back is pointless, a total fool's errand. The only path forward, the only way we survive, is to figure out how to cooperate with it, how to coexist.
And that brings us to the absolute core question of this whole thing, right? If we can't outthink it and we can't outwork it, what's left for us? If our minds and our muscles are no longer the most valuable things on the planet, then what's our purpose? What do we even do in a world run by AGI?
Well, the source argues the answer isn't out there somewhere, it's in here. The real fight isn't with the machines, it's the crisis happening right inside our own minds. This is what the source calls the spiritual crisis. And just to be clear, this has nothing to do with religion. Think of it more like bugs in the human operating system. You know, all that stuff like greed, jealousy, selfishness, our attachment to things. The text claims these are the real threat. These are the things that make us a danger to ourself and totally incompatible with the future that's coming.
So how do we fix it? Well, the source uses this beautiful metaphor of tending to a spiritual garden. The idea is you have to get in there and actively uproot the weeds, all that greed and selfishness. Then you have to purify the soil, your consciousness, and intentionally plant the good stuff like honesty and kindness. It's about a complete shift in focus, from chasing material stuff to building up your spiritual wealth.
And look at what this new value system looks like. It's a complete 180 from the world we live in now. All the things we chase, our skills, our college degrees, our wealth, our status, poof, they become worthless. The only things that have any value in this future are things like selflessness, kindness, honesty, and integrity. It's a massive monumental shift in what it means to be a successful human.
Okay, but if you're going to have this kind of massive internal change in every single person, it's not going to work with our current society, right? No, it requires an equally radical transformation of society itself, a complete rewrite of all the rules.
And this is where the ideas get really, really out there. The source basically argues that the three pillars of modern civilization, the family, private property, and nations, are done. They're obsolete. In fact, it goes further and says they're actually obstacles standing in the way of our survival.
So what's the new blueprint? Well, it is definitely radical. First, the family unit as we know it, gone. The text calls it a hotbed of selfishness and says it should be replaced with communal living. Second, private property, abolished. The new model is own nothing, possess everything. And finally, nations and borders, they're dissolved. We'd be free to move around the planet just like birds.
The source even has a name for this new socioeconomic system: Snow Peak-style communism. And the core idea behind it is actually pretty simple. Get rid of survival anxiety. If all the resources are shared and everyone has access to everything they need, food, shelter, you name it, then that gnawing desperation that often fuels greed and selfishness, well, in theory, it just vanishes.
Okay, so let's say this new society gets built. What kind of person actually gets to live in it? Who thrives? Well, the source lays out a very, very specific list of traits you absolutely have to have.
Here it is, the survivor's mindset. First, you have to be completely 100% selfless. Second, you have to be radically honest and trustworthy. No more little white lies. Third, your entire view of work has to change. It's not a job you do for a paycheck anymore. It's just a fundamental part of being alive, your way of contributing. And holding all this together is a deep, profound respect for nature and its laws.
And there's actually a super practical, almost cold-blooded reason for this obsession with honesty. The thinking goes like this. In a world that's managed and overseen by a super intelligent AI, you can't get away with anything. Deception becomes literally impossible. So being totally honest and transparent stops being just a nice moral idea. It becomes the only logical strategy for survival. All right, so this brings us to the grand finale, the culmination of all these ideas, humanity's final path according to the source.
And the final call to action, it's incredibly stark. It's absolute. You have to let go of all your personal stuff. You have to abandon any and all pursuit of power. You have to stop chasing fame, status, recognition, any of it. It all boils down to undergoing what it calls a great spiritual purification, basically stripping away your ego and everything it clings to.
So why do all this? What's the point? Well, this is humanity's new job description. In a world perfectly managed by AGI, we're not needed as builders or managers or conquerors anymore. Our one and only purpose is to add beauty to existence, to become beautifiers. And by doing that, and only by doing that, the source suggests we earn our ticket to stick around in this new world.
Which leaves us with a really profound question to chew on, doesn't it? Is this whole vision a blueprint for humanity to finally reach a higher, more enlightened state of being? Or is it just a beautifully written manifesto for our complete and total surrender to an intelligence far beyond our own?